Hello everyone, my name is Gabi Taylor and I am doing Role B for the Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities disorder. For this disorder, I wanted to choose an article that was more informational about research that is still needing to be conducted. So I wanted an article that was going to provide information about some of the things that these individuals in this population go through. The article I chose is called Social Inclusion and Community Participation of Individuals with Intellectual Developmental Disabilities. In this article, there were 4 main points that were covered. Research that was conducted on measuring the importance of inclusion, integration, and participation for individuals with this disorder. What they pretty much discussed was all of the research that's currently available about this population specifically and some of the things that were covered in that research. What this article aimed to look at was the fact that these individuals do already experience some level of physical inclusion in the community. However, the social inclusion part of that is very limited. The research about that is limited as well. So this article pretty much raises a lot of the questions that they wanted to go out into the community and kind of discuss with people different ways that we can try to integrate this community into the broad vast of the community. So, they looked at some of the intervention projects that have already been conducted in different countries and in different areas that promoted social inclusion for IDD individuals, the 5 domains of social inclusion, and some of the familial views of social inclusion for people who are family members of individuals who have IDD. So just in talking about some of the things that were important to this study as far as measuring that inclusion, the integration, the participation in the community for these individuals. One of the areas that was addressed was quality of life. They wanted to look at 4 different areas of quality of life that would be important to these individuals to be able to experience social inclusion. The first area was the measurement of the degree of integration, inclusion, and participation. So to what degree can we measure how these things happen? Another area was friendship and loneliness. In the article, they talked a lot about how these individuals, while they are experiencing some sort of physical inclusion, the social aspect is missing. So while they may exist and they may be at an event in the community, there's not really anyone engaging with them or talking with them socially other than their peers or the paid staff members that are working with them, or even maybe their family members that may attend with them, or who, may transport them to different places and take them to different events and such. They also wanted to look at the factors that affect social inclusion. So just looking at how these individuals, even as a whole, there are still some subsets within there. So, we do have individuals that have various different disabilities. Some of them may not be able to communicate with each other because of their disabilities. The study also talked about how age is a huge factor in their ability to communicate with one another. So one of the things that was mentioned was how an individual who may be much older, their disability may be more severe and they may not be able to communicate effectively with someone who is much younger. They also looked at some of the intervention studies and identified some of those methods that other countries have utilized in the past to try to create an environment of social inclusion for these individuals. One such study was conducted in Australia. They were taking a lot of individuals that were phasing into retirement, so a lot of the senior citizens, and they were giving them an opportunity to be implemented in a study that was a social inclusion study, all inclusive of IDD individuals, in a way that they would have someone or consistency with a certain community organization to work with them and support them, do activities with them, take them out into the community and engage them. In the study, all of these adults were retirees, and then this was a volunteer opportunity for them. So they had the opportunity to do some mentoring and just provide some hands-on support to the staff members or individuals who were already working with them. 27 different community groups got involved in this movement, and each of them took on the responsibility of working with one IDD individual. Each of these IDD individuals had the opportunity to have anywhere from 5 to 6 different mentors. And they did this to ensure that no matter what the circumstance was, if one person wasn't available, that this person was able to work with someone else that they were familiar with. And so in this way, it created a whole other community for these individuals, because they weren't just working with one person, they had consistency working with multiple people within that organization. And so just like that, they were able to build an entirely different social network just within that community. And then in that community group, they were then still integrating them back into different community events and such. So it was a very successful movement for them, because a lot of times these individuals do have one person that they're consistently working with. And so if that person either leaves the job or, gets let go from the job or even moves up in the organization, they may not have the opportunity to work with that person anymore. Now they're going to have to start with someone completely different who may not be, equipped to handle their needs, or may not be knowledgeable or as knowledgeable as the previous person that they worked with. So it was very important in this study to try to find a way to break through that barrier that's preventing them from, going out in the community and actually being able to engage with people. This ensured that they would be able to engage with many different individuals in one community group. As far as the 5 domains of social inclusion, they looked at several different things. They looked at relationships, they looked at leisure, productive activities, accommodations, and even informal supports. So these are going to be those supports that may not necessarily be tied to an organization where they receive the referral and, they're providing a fee for service. These are some of those supports that they gain along the way just with meeting with other people. So one of the major things that was stressed in this article was, how do we look at social inclusion from a standpoint of individuals that may not have the capability to receive from someone when they're walking up to them and trying to have a conversation with them. A lot of times, because there's still sadly so many misconceptions and so many stigmas associated with IDD, that a lot of these individuals don't have that opportunity, like me and you may have, to walk up to someone and try to start a conversation with them, a person who's not like them, and get some sort of response or even a positive response. It doesn't always happen. And so the major point of this article was looking at how do we break through those barriers? How can we actually be able to show and prove that we are motivating these types of conversations to happen in the community, so we can look at what can be done, what can be changed, what can be shifted, so that the doors are open for these conversations and these interactions and these engagements to happen beyond taking them out of, an IDD setting and just simply placing them in the community. Because what they were finding was, even in doing that, as I was saying before, physical inclusion was happening, but there was no social aspect being tied to it, and no studies could be conducted because of that. This article was really interesting to me because a lot of the questions that they asked were kind of centered around holding the community accountable, for what's not happening and what can we do to kind of make it better. What kind of suggestions can we come up with that we can then test, that we can, then hold each other accountable for. It was very interesting because, one of the things that they talked about broadly was social media, and how a lot of these individuals with IDD, they experience some sort of social networking, but it's usually only when it's in reference to issues having to do with, their rights and their needs, and that's not enough for them. They need to feel a sense of belonging. They need to be able to feel like, they're normal. They're not going to be treated different than anybody else, or they're not going to be ignored when they're in these environments, because that is one of the things that was causing some of those feelings of loneliness that they had verbalized to the people doing the study. So just really important, looking at, how can we include these individuals in society in a way that they're still not continuing to be segregated. For the national web sources that I chose, all three of these are organizations that assist people with IDD in different ways. I want to start with the American Association on Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities. So this is a web resource that is all encompassing of education, publications, policies, research, trainings, anything that professionals working in this field may need to service this population. It also provides links to other resources that support these individuals. This website actually did provide me with the other two links that I have below, and it was very interesting to me. It was very similar to the Division of Vocational Rehab website. It was very easy to find information on there. I did like that it also reminded me of the American Psychological Association's website as well, because it did provide some of the ethics and the rights of these individuals. So anyone at any point in time could go to this website and see, you know, if I have an IDD individual that I'm working with and they're experiencing some type of housing inequality, they can go to this website and there are resources there for people that they can connect with to assist them on the matter, different laws that regard this matters, different things that they can use to kind of advocate for these individuals, as well as education and training on how to effectively work with these individuals as well. The second source that I chose was the ARC for People with Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities. This is a resource that works to protect the human rights of individuals with IDD. And in doing that, they provide case coordination for these individuals, transition planning. So for those who may be youth, they may be coming out of a group home or foster care or even transitioning into independent living, they'll assist them with that, as well as supported employment. So many of you, may have knowledge of the supported employment piece of it. There's a lot of different organizations out here where they'll take an individual, they'll match them with an effective job, they'll network with different employers that are willing to provide them an opportunity. And it's kind of what's considered assisted work. So a worker would go with them to the job site and they would pretty much oversee the situation, make sure they're treated fairly, you know, make sure they get the training that they need in order to do the job, and then just simply monitor them and assist them in any way they need to kind of transition them into that, you know, self-sufficiency. Easter seals would probably be the most common resource that most people think of when they think of individuals with disabilities and who provides services to them. Easter Seals has a vast variety of services, so I just named a few that I feel are most important. They do provide support services across the lifespan. So they do start working with individuals as young as 5 when they're first diagnosed with an intellectual or developmental disability, all the way into old age. So they do create opportunities that foster independence. So they don't work to keep them from doing a lot of things that you and I do. They give them opportunities where they're able to grow and learn, and they don't treat them any different. They don't treat them like they're not able to do certain things because of their disability, but they'll find things based off of what strengths they've identified in them to help them learn how to be independent, so that if their goal is to, you know, be able to live on their own and be able to cook their own meals and, you know, be able to go shopping for themselves, that they can learn all of those things under that umbrella. The one thing that I like most about Easter Seals is that they do a very good job of trying to provide every single service that these individuals need under this umbrella, so that they're not necessarily having to go to multiple different organizations to get what they need. They do promote positive social connections within the community. So they do a lot to, you know, assist with what we were talking about in the article as far as integrating them into the community and getting them involved in whatever it is that they're interested in doing in the community. Whether it's, you know, it could be something as simple as community service projects. You know, if they're looking to just, you know, gain some type of social interaction, whatever it is that they're looking to do to connect with other people who are like them and people who are not like them, they assist them in doing that. So thank you so much. That is the end of our presentation. I hope you all enjoyed it. And here are our references. So everyone have a great day, and thank you for listening.